I was standing outside room 409, clutching divorce papers with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Never in my life did I think it would come to this. If you told me half a year ago that I'd be standing in a hotel hallway about to end my marriage, I would have laughed it off like a bad joke. Back then, I was Mike Harris, loyal husband, the guy who still brought Rachel coffee in bed after 15 years of marriage, just because I knew how she liked it. But that was before the curtain got pulled back. Rachel and I first met when we were 17, sitting side by side in AP History. She was sharp, relentless, the kind of girl who made you feel proud just being around her. I was the calm one, steady when she wasn't. I held her hand through every panic attack before a class presentation, and every time she won, it felt like I did too. We scraped through our 20s as a team. Cheap dinners, instant noodles, her grinding through her MBA, me taking on long hours doing construction just to keep the lights on. Every struggle felt worth it because we were chasing something together. When she finally landed a real job at Morrison & Associates, we popped open a bottle of champagne we couldn't even afford. "We actually did it," she whispered that night. "We made it." And I believed her. God help me, I believed every damn word. The decade that followed felt like a dream. Rachel kept rising through the ranks in the corporate world, and I built up my own contracting business from the ground up. We bought our house in Westfield, the one with the bay windows she used to daydream about. Talked about kids, vacations, growing old together on the porch we fixed up with our own hands. But everything started to shift 2 years ago when Rachel got bumped up to senior account director. I was over the moon for her. Took her out to that pricey steakhouse downtown to celebrate. "To my amazing wife," I said, raising my glass. She smiled back, but something about her eyes felt off, like she was already somewhere else in her head. Then came the slow changes. Longer hours at work. Weekend, team-building events. Business trips that popped up on the calendar like weeds. Rachel had always been ambitious, so I chalked it up to her chasing success. I told myself she was proving herself, pushing forward. The stress explained why she seemed so worn out, so distracted. It had to be the stress, right? That's why she stopped touching me at night. "I'm just wiped out, Mike," she'd mumble, turning her back to me. "This promotion's killing me." So I played the part of the supportive husband. Picked up more around the house. Gave her space. Never complained when dinner went cold or when she walked in too tired to speak. When she changed her phone passcode, I figured it was something to do with work security. When she came home with new lingerie she never once wore for me, I convinced myself she just wanted to feel confident around the office. I was blind. Willingly blind. And Rachel? She let me stay that way. The trips kept coming: Chicago for marketing, Atlanta for clients, then a 4-day leadership retreat in Miami. Every time she packed that same black silk dress, the one that made her look like she belonged in some Hollywood film. And every time, she kissed me goodbye with lips that tasted like deception. "I'll miss you," she'd whisper. And I let myself believe it because the truth was too ugly to face. But even a fool eventually hits his limit. Mine came on a Tuesday morning in March. Rachel was getting ready for yet another so-called retreat, this one supposedly in San Diego. She folded that black dress with such care, like it was something sacred, secretive. "How long this time?" I asked. "Just 3 days," she replied, not even looking up. "Same as usual." But this time wasn't like the others. Something deep in me, some primal instinct I'd been pushing down for months, finally broke through the lies I kept telling myself. As I watched her zip up that suitcase, a cold certainty settled in my gut like ice water. Rachel was cheating on me. I waited until her car turned the corner and disappeared. Then I picked up the phone and called Peterson Investigations. Frank Peterson answered on the second ring. "This is Mike Harris," I said. "I need your help." The words burned coming out of my mouth, but I said them anyway. I laid everything out. Rachel's schedule, her behavior lately, all the little red flags I'd ignored. Frank didn't judge, didn't interrupt. He just listened. Then he laid it out plain. $3,000 up front. That covers the week. I wired the money that afternoon. Pulled it from our emergency fund, the one Rachel didn't even know existed. The irony hit hard. I was using our rainy day savings to find out if our entire marriage was a storm I never saw coming. That night, I cooked for one and stared at her empty chair across the table. For the first time in 15 years, I let myself picture a future without Rachel in it. And you know what? I didn't feel fear. I felt free. That next week dragged like a prison sentence. Every hour felt like a year. I went through the motions, showed up at the construction site, kept my hands busy with drywall and power tools, but my brain never stopped spinning. Nights were the worst. Lying alone in bed, eyes on the ceiling, heart pounding with every horrible possibility. Then came Thursday afternoon. I was in the middle of installing cabinets at Mike's place when Frank finally called. "Mike," he said, voice flat, "we need to talk. Tonight, Murphy's Pub 7. "You found something?" I asked. "I found everything." My hands trembled as I packed up my tools. The drive home was a blur, stoplights, traffic, radio static. My mind kept replaying Frank's voice in my head. Calm, final, like a surgeon about to deliver the kind of news that leaves you hollow. Frank was already waiting when I walked into the pub, tucked away in a corner booth. A manila envelope sat on the table between us. Fat, heavy, like a weapon waiting to go off. He looked older than I remembered, tired, like a man who'd handed out too much heartbreak over the years. "You sure you want to see this?" he asked. "Show me," I said. The first photo hit me like a punch to the ribs. Rachel walking into the downtown Marriott. Not San Diego like she'd told me. This hotel was 15 damn minutes from our house. She was wearing that black silk dress, the one she used to save for our anniversary dinners. Hair done up, lipstick perfect, but she wasn't alone. Walking beside her was a tall guy in a tailored suit. Dark hair, confident, money oozing off him like cologne. His hand rested low on her back, casual and possessive, like he'd done it 1,000 times. They looked like a couple. "Bradley Kent," Frank said, sliding the next photo across. "VP at Morrison and Associates. Her direct boss." The next shots were worse. The two of them sitting in the hotel bar, leaning in close over drinks, walking side by side toward the elevators. And then the last one, taken from outside through the hotel room window. Their silhouettes locked in an embrace inside room 409. My vision started to blur. The glass of whiskey sitting in front of me went untouched as a wave of nausea rolled through my gut. This wasn't some nightmare I'd wake up from. This was happening. The woman I'd spent 20 years loving was wrapped up in some affair with her boss while I sat home like a damn loyal dog, waiting for scraps. "How long?" I asked, barely recognizing my own voice. Frank flipped through his notes. 18 months, he said. Started around 6 months after she got that promotion. A year and a half. 18 months of fake trips, of staged affection when she could be bothered to play the role. All those nights I lay awake wondering what I'd done wrong. Why my wife didn't want me anymore. Turns out she did want someone. Just not me. Frank slid another photo across the table. Bradley Kent, arms slung around a blonde woman. 2 kids stood in front of them. Looked like maybe 8 and 10. Picture-perfect family portrait. "That's his wife, Ava," Frank said. "Stays at home. Married 15 years. Just like you." He pointed to the children. Michael and Sarah. The weight of it all hit me like a hammer to the chest. This wasn't just about my marriage. Rachel and Bradley hadn't just torn through our vows. They'd set fire to 2 families. They'd dragged innocent kids into their mess. Somewhere, Ava Kent was probably making dinner or helping with homework, completely unaware her husband had been living a double life for nearly 2 years. "There's more," Frank said, pushing over a small pile of documents. Receipts, statements, hotel bookings, jewelry purchases. "She's been expensing all of it through the company," he said, labeling it as business meetings, filing it under client dinners, hotel stays, marketing expenses. My jaw clenched. That's corporate fraud. I stared down at the stack, struggling to even wrap my head around the scope of it all. This wasn't a weak moment or some drunken mistake. This was deliberate, cold, planned, took coordination, strategy. Lies stacked on lies. And not a single damn thought about the people they'd destroy along the way. "What do you want to do?" Frank asked. A week ago, I might have said therapy, counseling. I would have considered trying to fix things, patch the holes, heal together. But that man, he was gone. Sitting there now was someone different. Someone colder. Someone who finally saw the truth for what it was. Rachel had chosen Bradley 18 months ago. And every day since then, she'd looked me in the eye and lied. "I need Ava Kent's address," I said. Frank raised an eyebrow. "You planning to tell her? Or work with her?" "They destroyed 2 homes," I said. "They should have to answer to both." He gave me a slow nod. Something passing between us. Recognition. He'd seen this change before. When the hurt stops paralyzing you and starts fueling something sharper. "I'll get you what you need," he said. "But Mike, revenge is a slippery thing. Once you go down that road, there's no coming back." I didn't respond. I just looked down at the photos spread across the table. Proof of Rachel's betrayal, of Bradley's duplicity. Pictures of 2 kids who were about to lose the man they called Dad. The truth was, the game had already started. Rachel and Bradley had been playing for 18 months. And they'd been winning because I hadn't even known I was on the board. But now, the rules were changing. I paid Frank, gathered the evidence, and drove back to the house. The silence inside hit different this time, too sharp, too final. Her coffee mug still sat in the sink. Lipstick smeared on the rim like a signature, like a confession. I stood there in our kitchen, looking at the photos on the wall, the mugs, the perfectly arranged little life we'd built. And just like that, something inside me clicked into place. Something hard and cold. Tomorrow, I'd pay a visit to Bradley Kent's wife. I'd offer her a partnership, the kind that would make sure both cheaters got exactly what they had coming. The perfect husband? He was gone. Standing in his place now was a man with nothing left to shield and everything to strike back for. Ava Kent lived in one of those polished colonial mansions in Riverside Estates. The kind of neighborhood where every lawn looked hand-painted and everyone drove the same 2 luxury SUVs. I parked down the block and watched from my truck for 20 minutes. Through the windows, I saw her moving around like a ghost in her own house. Setting the table, helping the kids with homework, cleaning up after dinner. She looked just like I had for the past 18 months. Devoted, unaware. At 7:30, once the house quieted and the kids' voices floated upstairs, I walked up and rang the bell. She answered in yoga pants and a big sweater, blonde hair tied up in a messy bun. Even without trying, there was something effortlessly graceful about her. "Can I help you?" she asked, voice cautious as her eyes took in my work clothes and heavy expression. "Mrs. Kent, I'm Mike Harris." Her face paled instantly. I thought she might shut the door in my face, but she didn't. Something in my tone must have told her I wasn't there to hurt her. She stepped back and motioned for me to come in. Movements stiff, automatic. The living room looked like it had been pulled from a home design magazine. Cream-colored couches, fresh flowers, framed smiles from perfect vacations. It was the American dream, built on rot. "You're Rachel's husband," she said quietly. "You know about her?" I asked. Ava sank into an armchair and folded her hands like she was saying a prayer. "I don't know her name," she said. "But I've known there was someone." She glanced up, eyes dull with exhaustion. "Brad's been different, distant. Late nights, trips that don't make sense. Random charges on the Amex." I asked questions. Got answers that didn't. "How long have you known?" I asked. "A few months," she admitted. But I kept telling myself I was paranoid, that I was supposed to trust him, that good wives don't snoop. She laughed bitterly. How stupid was I? I reached into my jacket and pulled out the envelope Frank had given me. "You weren't stupid," I said, setting it down in front of her. "You were loyal. They were counting on that." Ava stared at the envelope like it might catch fire. "What's in there?" "Photos, receipts, hotel bookings, jewelry bills, everything you need to see, and a whole lot you'll wish you hadn't." Her hands shook as she opened it. Page by page, her face shifted shock, then rage, then something raw and broken. When she got to the photo of Rachel and Brad kissing outside the Marriott, she let out a sound that didn't even seem human. Half sob, half snarl. 18 months, she whispered, reading Frank's notes. Right through our anniversary. Christmas with the kids. She stopped, breathing hard. He told Sarah he couldn't miss her science fair. Said it mattered. She won first place. I called him after and he must have been with your wife. Her voice cracked, and something in me tightened. This wasn't just a woman cheated on. She was a mother whose children were now collateral damage. They hadn't just shattered 2 marriages. Rachel and Bradley had detonated entire lives. What do you want to do about it? I asked. Ava wiped at her tears. And when she looked up again, that soft, broken woman was gone. In her place was steel. I want to burn them to the ground, she said. Both of them. No mercy. No warnings. Good, I told her, nodding. So do I. We got to work. Ava had a business degree and a brain like a steel trap. She'd spent years managing Bradley's schedule, balancing his accounts, keeping his world in order. Now she was using every skill she had to tear that world down. He's up for partner next year, she said, scribbling notes like she was prepping for war. Morrison and Associates has a morality clause baked into their contracts. If the board catches wind that he's sleeping with a subordinate, Rachel filed their hotel stays as work expenses, I added. That's corporate fraud. Exactly, Ava said, eyes narrowing. And I have his computer passwords. Email, calendar, files, everything. If we time this right, we can strike from every side at once. We kept planning. Ava would anonymously report everything to HR and the company's ethics hotline, backed by hard proof. I'd take the legal route, divorce filings, freezing Rachel's assets, locking her out financially before she even realized what hit her. We coordinated with our lawyers to maximize damage. But all of that, HR, legal, finances, it was just the setup. The real moment, the one that mattered most, was the confrontation. They've booked room 409 again, I said, checking Frank's notes. Tomorrow night. Same room as always. I want to be there, Ava said, her voice like flint. I want to see their faces when the fantasy comes crashing down. It's not going to be pretty, I warned. Good. Her tone didn't waver. They didn't care about pretty when they humiliated us, when they ripped our families apart. Let them squirm. I studied her for a second. Just hours earlier, we were strangers. Now we were co-conspirators in something bigger than either of us had planned. Then she hesitated. The first pause all night. There's one more thing, she said. After we confront them, after the paperwork and the fallout, I want people to know. I raised an eyebrow. You mean they're friends? Colleagues? Exactly. Brad's well-connected. So is Rachel. They smile in PDA meetings and charity galas while living double lives. Their reputations should match who they really are. Cheaters. Thieves. Cowards. I'm not just talking about court settlements, Ava continued. I'm talking about truth. Scorched earth. I nodded slowly. Scorched earth. She reached out her hand. I took it. In that moment, 2 betrayed spouses became something else entirely. We weren't victims anymore. We were allies, instruments of justice, the kind of storm our cheating spouses never saw coming. The next night, the Marriott hallway stretched out before us like a tunnel to Judgment Day. Ava walked beside me, heels echoing off marble like a ticking clock counting down the seconds. She looked flawless in a navy dress and pearls, like the perfect wife delivering the final act in a play neither of them knew they were starring in. In one hand, I held Frank's manila envelope. Divorce papers rustled in my jacket pocket like loaded weapons. Frank had called an hour earlier. They're in, he said. Checked in at 6:30. Ordered room service at 7:15. Haven't left since. Their private little drama was building to its finale, and they had no clue the audience was about to storm the stage. You ready for this? I asked. Ava lifted her chin and pulled her shoulders back, transforming in an instant from wounded wife to queen of retribution. I've been ready for 18 months, she said. I just didn't know it until now. I knocked. Not a soft, uncertain tap. This was a knock with purpose. The kind that tells you whoever's outside isn't going away. We heard the scramble, movement, muffled voices. A drawer slammed. Someone rushed to throw on clothes. Then the door opened. Rachel stood there, wrapped in a hotel bathrobe, hair tousled, lips still swollen from kissing another man. She froze. Her eyes scanned my face, struggling to make sense of why I was standing in that doorway instead of waiting back home like the good little husband she'd grown so used to deceiving. "Mike?" she breathed, confused, caught. What are you doing here?" I stepped inside without a word. Ava followed, silent and sure. It was showtime. The second we stepped into room 409, the truth was everywhere. 2 champagne flutes sat half full on the nightstand. Clothes were scattered across the carpet like fallen lies, and the bedsheets, twisted, messy, reeked of betrayal. Bradley sat on the edge of the bed, stripped down to boxers and an undershirt, his expensive suit tossed nearby like even it had given up on him. "Hello, darling," Ava said sweetly, her voice dipped in venom. Bradley's face turned the color of ash. Rachel clutched her robe tighter, as if a layer of silk could shield her from what was crashing down. For a year and a half they'd held all the power, sneaking around, spinning lies, making fools out of us while they played lovers in hotel rooms. But tonight, they were cornered, naked, powerless. "This isn't what it looks like," Rachel said automatically, like she'd rehearsed it in her sleep. "Oh yeah," I said, stepping forward and laying out the photos on the hotel desk one by one, like cards in a losing hand. "Because it looks a hell of a lot like my wife has been screwing her boss in this room for 18 months, and charging every minute of it to her company." Bradley tried to rise, his mouth opening for a rebuttal, but Ava's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Sit down, Thomas." He froze. Her tone didn't leave room for negotiation. This was the woman who had run his world, scheduled his meetings, raised his kids, kept his life intact while he played pretend husband with another woman. He dropped back onto the mattress, suddenly looking like a scared little boy in a grown man's body. "We can explain," he said, voice weak. "Explain what?" Ava fired back, standing tall, arms crossed. "How you missed Sarah's parent-teacher night because you were here with her. How you told me you were on a flight to Chicago when you were 10 minutes from our house. How you used our kids' college fund to bankroll your little fantasy." Rachel's face buckled under the weight of the truth. They'd thought they were clever, careful, untouchable. But what they didn't know was that the two people they'd underestimated, me and Ava, had transformed. We weren't broken spouses anymore. We were judge, jury, and executioner. "Mike, please," Rachel said, reaching for me, eyes wide, voice trembling. "We can fix this. It was a mistake. I love you. I've always loved you." I pulled out the divorce papers and placed them in her open hand. "You love me," I said, staring straight through her. "You loved me so much you let another man put his hands all over you for a year and a half. You loved me so much you filed fake business expenses and kissed me goodnight with his mouth still on you." Her hands trembled as she looked down at the paperwork, at the legal end of everything she thought she'd get away with. My lawyer had left nothing untouched. She wouldn't get the house, or the savings, or a cent from the business I built while she played pretend in hotel rooms. The prenup we signed back when we were just dumb kids in love? Now it was her financial obituary. "You can't do this," Bradley barked, finally standing. "This is private. This is between us." Ava laughed, a sharp, breaking glass sound that sliced through the tension. "Private?" she snapped. "You made it public the moment you started screwing another man's wife. You made it public when you used company resources to fund your affair. You made it public when you lied to your kids about where you were, what you were doing, who you really were." She reached into her bag and pulled out her own stack of legal papers. "These are for you, Thomas," she said, cold and steady. "Divorce papers." "But unlike Mike," Ava said, her eyes locked on her husband, "I'm not interested in a clean break." Her voice was calm, ruthless. "I want the house. I want full custody of Michael and Sarah. I want half your business equity, half your retirement accounts, and spousal support that reflects the lifestyle you've been bankrolling for your mistress." The words slammed into the room like a gunshot. Rachel winced like she'd been slapped. Bradley's face flushed red, fists clenching, jaw tight with rage he didn't dare unleash. "You can't call her that," he snapped. "I can call her whatever I damn well want," Ava replied, voice sharp as glass. "Just like she can start calling herself unemployed once HR finishes digging through the fraud reports. And you?" She smiled, venom sweet. "You'll be calling yourself formerly employed once the board enforces that morality clause." The color drained from both their faces. That's when it hit them. This wasn't about divorce. This was annihilation. "I've already sent the documentation," I added. "By Monday morning, your bosses, your colleagues, everyone in your professional orbit will know exactly who you are and what you've done." Bradley scrambled for sympathy. "We have children, Ava. Michael and Sarah. You should have thought about them 18 months ago," she snapped. "Every time you lied, every time you snuck off to meet her, every time you threw our family away for an orgasm. You should have thought about your kids when you decided your dick was more important than their stability." Rachel started crying then. Not soft, remorseful tears. These were guttural sobs. Ugly, desperate. The sound of a world collapsing. I watched her fall apart and felt nothing. The woman I married was gone. What sat before me now was a stranger who built her happiness on my humiliation. "What do you want from us?" Bradley asked. His voice was small. "Nothing," I said flatly. "There's nothing you can give us that'll fix this. You made your choice. Now you get to live with what comes after." Ava checked her watch. "Mike and I have dinner reservations in an hour," she said casually. "I suggest you use the time to figure out how you're going to explain this mess to your kids, your families, your friends, and your now former employers." We turned for the door. Rachel's voice cracked behind me one last time. "Mike, wait, please. It was just physical. It didn't mean anything." I stopped, turned, looked at her, sitting in a cheap hotel bathrobe, in a room that stank of betrayal, surrounded by the ruins of her double life. For half a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the lies, the passwords, the fake trips, the way she'd kissed me goodbye before every weekend of cheating. "If it didn't mean anything," I said, my voice calm, final, "then neither did our marriage, and neither do you." The door clicked shut behind us, and the elevator doors closed on room 409, on everything it represented. The next morning, Rachel and Bradley woke up in a new world, one where their lies had consequences, and the people they betrayed had voices. Justice had been served. Personal, precise, unforgiving. 3 weeks later, they came crawling back to reality. Rachel returned to find her clothes stuffed into garbage bags, lined up neatly on the curb. Bradley? He walked into an empty condo. Frozen accounts. Eviction notices. Silence. While they played house in a hotel suite, Ava and I moved fast. Morrison and Associates wasted no time after receiving Ava's evidence package. Both were fired within 48 hours. Ethics violations. Expense fraud. Professional misconduct. Turns out, the audit uncovered over $30,000 in misused company funds, every dollar spent on hotels, dinners, jewelry, and whatever else Bradley used to buy Rachel's attention. "Thomas bought her with corporate cards," Ava said over coffee, lips curled in a cold smile. "The board was furious," she added. "Richard Morrison said he'd never seen such blatant abuse of company resources." Bradley's reputation? Shattered. Word got out fast. In their industry, reputations are currency, and Bradley's was worth nothing. No one wanted to hire a former VP who couldn't be trusted with company funds or his own judgment. In less than a week, he went from corporate hotshot to toxic liability. But Ava, her revenge was art. 15 years of country club brunches, charity boards, and corporate parties had built her a web of influence, and she pulled every string. "I spoke to Patricia Whitman yesterday," she told me casually one morning. "Mentioned some concerns about Bradley's financial conduct and how it might affect club dues." Funny thing about those upper-crust circles. All it takes is one whisper. By the next day, his club membership was revoked. No questions, no warnings. Her legal strategy was just as ruthless. Bradley lost the house, primary custody of the kids, and was slapped with support payments that'd keep him in debt for years. The judge hadn't been swayed by tears or titles. Not when faced with a man who'd risked his children's future for hotel sex and lies. Rachel didn't fare much better. After the fallout, her parents took her in, but it wasn't charity, it was pity. The disappointment on their faces spoke louder than any words. She managed to land a job at some mid-tier suburban firm, making half what she did before. Her city career? Gone. She tried calling again. I told Ava over coffee. What did you tell her? She asked, eyebrow raised. Nothing. My lawyer sent a cease and desist. Any more contact is harassment. Rachel got nothing in the divorce. No claim to the house. No piece of my business. Not even a sliver of our savings. The prenup we signed as starry-eyed 20-somethings became the rope she tied around her own future. Bradley had it worse. Ava's attorney made a solid case that his affair constituted a fundamental betrayal of their marriage contract. The judge agreed. She walked away with everything. He's moving back in with his parents in Connecticut, Ava said, her tone light. Lost the condo. Can't afford rent. I didn't feel bad. They had 18 months to choose differently. 18 months to come clean, to do the hard thing instead of the selfish one. And they failed every time. Frank Peterson dropped by with final updates. Rachel's working part-time retail, he said, shaking his head. Thomas was spotted grocery shopping at 6 a.m. Looks like he's trying to avoid bumping into anyone from the old office. He gave a small shrug. Complete social exile, Frank muttered. Nobody wants to be around people who can't be trusted. That night, I walked through my home. Fresh paint, new furniture. Not a single trace of Rachel left behind. For the first time in years, I felt it. Peace. Not the naive comfort of thinking love would fix everything. This was real, earned peace. The kind that comes when you've walked through hell, come out the other side, and burned the damn bridge behind you. My phone buzzed. A text from Ava. Thomas called asking about co-parenting. Told him the best thing he could do for the kids is follow the custody order and avoid public appearances that'll embarrass them further. I smiled. Typed back. Perfect. That same night, Rachel tried again. Sent a handwritten letter through her parents. I shredded it, unread. She'd made her choice. So had I. Rachel and Bradley thought they were untouchable. Thought loyalty made us weak. That we'd turn the other cheek. But they learned. Some betrayals demand consequences. Not just a slap on the wrist or a few angry words, but a reckoning. The kind that tears down everything they built on lies and leaves nothing behind but ash. The man I was, the perfect husband, he's gone. So is the perfect wife. In their place stand two people who know exactly what they're worth, and what they'll never tolerate again. Justice was served cold, thorough, merciless, and it tasted like freedom.